So hi everybody, it's James from Posture Stars. Thanks for joining us again today. And today I'm talking to Libby Stevenson, who is a yoga teacher. Hi there, Libby.
Hi, James. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on. I've been really looking forward to speaking to you. I've seen a lot of your good stuff on social media, which is very popular there with the public. And I wanted to get to grips with what exactly it is that you do, and particularly from my perspective, how you can help my clients and the people who are listening to this podcast. So you're working down in London, is that right, Libby?
Yes. So I live and work in London, but I do a lot of my work now online, especially since after COVID. A lot of yoga classes have gone online. And actually, that's been a really good thing for yoga because a lot of people have this image that you need to be a particular age, a particular size, and you need to be very bendy. And it's off-putting if you don't think that you fit into those categories to go into a yoga studio. So doing it online, you can keep your video off. And actually, there's been a boom in yoga online because people can keep their videos off and feel a lot more comfortable doing yoga. So yeah, thanks COVID just for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really positive. A lot of, apart from it being really negative, of course, quite a few of my clients have switched from their local yoga classes to online classes. And those they're using their local yoga teachers because they're familiar with them and happy with them. But it's really opened up in the space of yoga. So I'm really pleased for you.
Yeah. Mm. So I teach yoga now predominantly online, and I'm a yoga teacher, and I specialize in yoga for women at different stages of life. So I teach to pregnant women, postnatal women, women who've just had a baby, and women going through the menopause. I'm also head of yoga for Harley Street at Home, which is an online wellness platform for women over 40. And this is all within the past 4 or 5 years that I became a yoga teacher, and all of this has happened. Before that, I have a degree in biomedical engineering, which actually sits really nicely alongside the yoga because it gives me a very strong foundation in anatomy, physiology, and alignment. So it all kind of meshes quite well together.
Okay, well, in that case, I've got this one question for you to start off with, which you will be no doubt admirably prepared to answer as a result of your vast qualifications, which is, Libby Stevenson, what is posture?
Right. Well, okay. So I thought about this question. And for me, posture is the way we carry ourselves. So we carry ourselves based on the way we see ourselves, the way we think about ourselves, the way we feel about ourselves. And we embody those feelings and mindset into our posture. And our posture can change from day to day. So if we're having a good day, we'll probably be standing a little bit taller, lifting our chest. And if we're having a bad day, then of course the opposite. We might be curling the body forward, rounding our shoulders, dropping the head a bit. And then there's a definition of posture which includes the alignment of the spine. So purely physical definition of the posture. But I think these two definitions work well together. The way we think and feel about ourselves is reflected in the physical posture. So for example, if we have a lack of confidence or low self-esteem or a negative view of life, we embody these attitudes and the body naturally curls forward. And of course, the opposite is also true. And studies show that if you are having a particularly bad day or, negative mindset, just by changing your posture, you can change, the way you see and feel about things. So it's an interesting mind-body connection for me. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a nice holistic way of looking at it. And I think more and more people are seeing the body as not just this functional, anatomical, robotic thing that moves through space, that there is a connection between our mind and bodies, folks, which is
definitely.
Oh my gosh, had nobody considered this before? It's funny, really.
Absolutely. And like I said, we do embody those feelings and we carry them in our posture. It's obvious when you see someone who is curled over, the tendency is to think, oh, are they sad? What is wrong with them? And then when someone is feeling good about themselves, it's obvious and they radiate an energy, don't they?
Yeah, and I think that's why some actors are paid so highly, is because they just radiate that energy. They have good comportment, They hold themselves well, if I can use that phrase.
Mhm.
Yeah, they stack
Absolutely.
themselves well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I definitely think the whole mind-body connection. But then, I'm a yoga teacher, so I would see it that way. I wouldn't
So,
just see it as a physical, upright spine type of thing, because I
yeah.
think the way we think and feel is going to affect that. And like I
So
said, on a day-to-day, it can change.
yeah, of course it can, and you need to listen to that as well. Sometimes if you, I like to run, and some days I'll get ready to run. I'll get out the door, and I'll think, whoa, hang on a minute. My body's saying don't run. My fitness watch is saying now you've got to go and run 5 kilometers, and my body's saying not today. And now I'm of an age where I listen to that as well, thankfully, and I'll go off and do some stretching and look after myself a bit better. I have a second question that I'm gonna sneak into question one, which is what is posture. And it's a question I've never actually asked before. What is yoga?
Right. Okay.
What is
Well,
it?
yoga is a number of things, actually. We tend to think of yoga in the West as movement, exercise, but it's so much more than that. It's breathing. It is movement, but it can also be stillness, either stillness in a pose or stillness in meditation. And then it's a whole way of life. So there's these things called the yamas and the niyamas, which are ways of living. So you could adopt them as a lifestyle. And then there's also the philosophical aspect to yoga, which is all about letting go, non-attachment. So there's a philosophical aspect to it. And it's not a religion. It's more a way of life if you choose it to be. Um, it's all of that combined. And for me, yoga, yes, has now become a way of life because I find the more I do yoga, and this was something that I was taught in my teacher training and I didn't believe it, but the more you do yoga, the more the things you don't need start to fall away. And it's interesting. And it's not just things like limiting alcohol and less sugar, that kind of a thing, but it's also people and things that are happening in your life that you know what it does? Yoga is awareness, whether it's breathing, meditation, movement, philosophy on life, it's about awareness. And you start becoming aware of the good and the not so good in your life. And it starts shaping the way you live. And I know we're getting out there a bit, but over time, this is what happens. And it certainly has made me more aware. And it's an interesting dynamic that happens to your mind and body. It really is. And it's something that happens that doesn't happen in other forms of exercise because other forms of exercise are all go, go, go. Whereas in yoga, whether you're breathing or meditating or just in a pose, there's that moment of stillness and there's an awareness of not just the thoughts popping up in your head, but also what's happening in the body. And then that translates to outside of your body and noticing things around you, the people that you're surrounding yourself with, how you eat, how you live. Um, it's a really interesting dynamic. So I recommend it to everyone to do yoga and to learn more about themselves and also about the world around them. Yeah, it's a
There's,
fascinating view.
sounds quite useful in business. Quite a lot of the when I work with people, in postural awareness, we urge a form of detachment, really, of self-awareness in relation to the environment. And some of my clients are CEO types. Tell me that that's had a positive effect on their business. And it sounds like yoga has some similar consequences for business people.
Yeah, well, for everyone. It taught me to recognize signals in my body when I was becoming stressed, which is really important. So if you're in a situation that is stressful, or you know how life throws things at you, the fact that you are aware of these signals from your body telling you I'm getting stressed, you can jump in with a breathing technique, calm yourself down, and then approach the situation in a more appropriate way. That doesn't mean you don't yell or whatever if it's not appropriate, but it's the ability to get that bit of space so that instead of action reaction and then thinking, oh my goodness, why did I say that, why did I do that, and regretting that, you have that moment of stepping in, assessing the situation, and then responding more appropriately, or perhaps not responding at all in that moment. So it's fascinating, and it's also made me more resilient, because with awareness, you become it's all a little bit hard to explain, but with awareness also comes resilience. And I've noticed this from other people saying the same thing. And now, yes, there are things that bother me, but I don't let them linger as long as I used to. I guess because it's the whole philosophy in yoga that the way things are right now will change. Nothing stays the same. So whatever is happening today doesn't necessarily mean it'll be like that forever. And so you learn to move on. Yeah, you learn resilience. You learn to move on. And I know it sounds all very positive and uplifting, but it really, they have these studies on yoga and how it helps with stress and anxiety and all of that. And that's the reason why, because there's all of these factors that come into it. And I think what it is that yoga plays upon the nervous system in a way that other forms of exercise don't. And it really gets to your nervous system and therefore changes not only the way you think, but, the way your nervous system is reacting to things in your environment, because you're becoming more aware of them. So it's a fascinating, area of movement. And I don't call it exercise. I call it movement, because yoga is so much more than just movement.
Yeah. And not a religion.
No, it's not a religion.
A lifestyle.
Yeah, it's not a religion. No, but it's interesting how a lot of people think that, because it's coming from India, but it's not a religion, and you can just use it as a form of movement should you want to. But it's certainly not a religion. Like I said, it's at most a philosophy on life, and you don't have to adopt that if you don't want to.
So at its most purely functional, with regards to posture, people use yoga to improve their posture.
Yes.
And just coming back to that, question 2 is, how do you help people with their posture? If I came to you and said, "Hey, Libby, I've got terrible posture," what can you do?
Well, there is a pose called mountain pose that can help with that. But yoga in general, all the poses, regardless of what pose you're in, they involve the whole body. They're holistic. So the whole body gets involved. So even though you're not in mountain pose and you're in another pose, in stillness, in order to be in that pose, you need to engage every part of the body, from the arms to the core, to the back, to the legs. They all have to work together. And by doing so, you are strengthening those parts of the body that help with posture without really thinking about, I have to get my posture, aligned. So it does it automatically just by being in the pose, even if you're going from one pose to the other in yoga. The movements are slow and with the breath. So you always have time to align and assess where you are in space in terms of that pose. So yes, there is a pose in particular that can help with posture called mountain pose, and it's a standing pose. And I actually recommend that to people, to just do that throughout their day as often as they want to, just to realign that spine, because you're bringing the shoulders back and down, you're lifting the chest, you're realigning the spine, the hips, etc., etc. And it does help with posture. But should you not be standing and want to realign your posture throughout your day, let's say you do a lot of sitting, then I just recommend bringing your hands behind your back. Of course, your back is away from the back of the chair. Have your arms behind your back, interlace the fingers, and pull the hands down towards the seat of the chair. And that automatically brings the shoulders back, lifts the chest, and automatically realigns the spine. And to take it even further, then, with the hands behind the back, fingers interlaced, you can lift the arms a bit to get more of an opening in the chest. And, both of these, what they do is they don't just realign the spine and help with posture, but they uncurl the body from being curled over a computer or from scrolling, or in my case, from aging. They counteract all the effects, including aging. And it's something we need to be aware of. We're all going to age. We all age. So we need to be aware of the fact that one of the natural tendencies of the body with aging is to curl forward. And so we need to constantly be fighting against that because we don't want to be that old person hunched over, do we? So, throughout the day to do mountain pose or arms behind the back and just, uncurling the shoulders is what we need to do so that we can counteract all the effects from sitting, scrolling, and aging.
So these are simple moves that it kind of bypasses the whole of what we were talking about earlier about the self-awareness, that act of detachment from immediate response to stimulus, whether that's external or internal. And these are things that you can do in about 5 seconds time, aren't they?
5 seconds, yes. And throughout your day, and like I said, you don't even have to get up from your chair if you don't want to with the arms behind your back. But it is good to stand up occasionally because that will help. But also, noticing our posture throughout our day, whether we're standing or sitting. But that's hard to do sometimes, especially if you have bad posture. So bringing the arms behind your back, even in a standing position, automatically lifts the chest, brings the shoulders back. And you feel the difference. You feel the difference. So those are my suggestions. Either mountain pose, if you know what that is, and if you don't, then whether you're standing or sitting, the arms behind your back can help to just uncurl the shoulders, which then will realign the spine.
Let's talk a moment about awareness because in my other role, I'm an Alexander Technique teacher, and what I do is I teach people to be aware of themselves in activity, as opposed to doing an activity and then forgetting about themselves and getting on with the next activity. So how useful is yoga for increasing that awareness of oneself in day-to-day activity?
Well, as I said earlier, that's what yoga is all about. It's all about awareness because whether you're meditating or breathing or in a pose or moving from one pose to the other, there's this constant, where is my body in space? Am I properly aligned? What thoughts are going through my head? It's all about awareness. Absolutely. And I notice it now. So when I'm sitting, I do notice, how am I sitting? Am I hunched over and all that? But that, yoga takes time. That awareness to build up and become automatic takes time. And it's over time that you start noticing, oh, I'm sitting hunched over, or I haven't stood up for a while, or whatever it is. It does take time. But it also brings about awareness in other areas, like hunger. Then you start noticing, oh, I'm not going to eat now because I'm not hungry. I'm not hungry, so I'm not going to eat. So it translates out into all aspects of your life, this concept of awareness. It's not just about posture awareness. It's about where are you in space at this moment? Are you sitting, standing, talking to people, whatever it may be.
This is more than kinesthetic awareness and proprioceptive awareness, isn't it? It's awareness of cognitive awareness of you and your responses. So you're observing yourself at a meta level.
Yes, exactly. I certainly do. But, like I said, this does take time. It's not like you do a yoga class and then, ooh, this is wonderful, I'm aware now. No, it takes
You mean
practice.
I can't do 1 hour yoga class and suddenly become self-aware?
No. No, because it's about strengthening those parts of the brain. It's about strengthening the decision-making part of the brain and quieting the reptilian part of the brain, the instinctual part of the brain that is all about fight, flight, action, reaction. And so when you do yoga, the part of the brain that gets stronger is the decision-making part of the brain. But like any form of exercise, you need to do it regularly and consistently in order to build up that muscle of the brain.
I got you. Okay, so question 3, which is again back to that simple topic of posture rather than our grander metaphysical discussions.
Yeah.
is if you could recommend now one thing for our listeners to do right now that would help them, what would it be?
Well, like I said, they're probably, I assume they're sitting down listening to this, but even if they're standing, they can do this. And it's all about just wherever you are. If you are sitting, bring your back away from the back of the chair. And if you're standing, that's great. Just bring your arms behind your back and interlace the fingers behind your back. Pull them down if you're standing towards the floor, or if you're sitting towards the seat of the chair. And just notice how the chest is open. Just starting with that. And that might be enough for you, depending on how curled forward your body is. But if you want more of a stretch, then you can start lifting the arms behind you, just ever so slightly, a couple of centimeters, to open up those collarbones even further. And so we're stretching the muscles in the chest and uncurling the body. So that is my tip. It's not even yoga. It's just a movement that I do throughout my day, whether standing or sitting, and it just feels great. And when we do that, because we're opening up the chest and the collarbones, we breathe better. And when we breathe better, because now the lungs have more space, we can think more clearly. So there you go. You're boosting your brain power too.
Win-win. So wherever you are, listeners, unless you're driving a vehicle or operating heavy machinery or performing brain surgery, you might want to...
Don't do it then.
Don't do it then, but you might want to give it a little go. It's the sort of thing you could do on public transport probably without anyone else noticing.
Exactly, yeah. And you know what, sometimes if you are in public transport, just bringing the shoulders back and down automatically lifts the chest.
Seriously, Libby, all the time when I'm on public transport, I'm working on myself. It's such a golden opportunity to work on yourself and you know, how am I sitting? What am I thinking? How am I breathing? It's golden. All those times, folks, when you're in the supermarket and you're in the back of a queue and you're going to have to stand there for 11 minutes.
Yes.
Work on yourself.
Do mountain pose. Do mountain pose. Yes, or at a bus stop. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah,
very practical yoga, mountain pose, and no one will really know you're doing it.
This is great, isn't it? No one knows you're bettering yourself. I love it. So, Libby, that's been fascinating. Not only in terms of the postural aspects, but also in terms of the cognitive benefits of yoga as well. Yeah. And I'm sure some of my clients would be delighted to hear more from you. Where would they find you?
Well, I'm mainly on Instagram. I really like that platform, so I'm on there a lot. And my handle is libbystevenson.wellbeing. I do have a website, but I have contact details on both my Instagram and on my website. My website is www.libbystevensonwellbeing.com. So they can connect with me there. And if they don't have Instagram, my Instagram is on my website. And on the website, I have lots of articles that I've been featured in or that I've written, you know, so that they can see a little bit more about me and, you know, how I think of yoga in terms of everyday life and how it can help people.
There you have it, folks. That's how to get hold of Libby Stevenson with a V, not a PH. Yes. And she'll be able to help you on your journey for self-discovery, exploration, and expanded breathing.
That's a whole other area, isn't it?
There's a whole. I know. We're going to do a series on breathing, actually. So I really look forward to that. Maybe we can hook up on that and talk about breathing as well. There's more to posture than just standing upright, folks.
Yes. Breathing better is another positive. Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming on and listening to us. This is James from Posture Stars with Libby Stevenson. I wish you a good day and go off and do some of those exercises. And if you sat down, get out of that chair now. Goodbye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.